Welcome to the Am I Hunting Podcast. In this episode, I sit down with a good friend of mine and we talk everything hunting. All right, what's up, everybody? Thank you for listening. Again, this is the Am I Hunting Podcast. So this episode was a pretty fun one. It certainly took a direction that I hadn't anticipated on. Basically, I sat down with a friend of mine who he had harvested a doe this year, one of his first ones in a while, and just wanted to talk to him about his hunting experience, his background on hunting, and kind of what led to the season, and ultimately kind of his mindset of harvesting deer and taking care of it and getting the meat from it essentially. And we ended up going on a whirlwind of tangents. I mean, we talk everything from the hunting industry to nutrition to veganism to even go so far as to even discuss the round polo buck. And basically we talk a little bit about everything and just kind of diving into some of the conversations that you can simply have about hunting. It's not a surface level thing that is just what it is. There are so many levels, so many aspects to hunting and the hunting world, and being part of the outdoors, and it can loop back into so many other aspects of your life, which we get into. So, so hopefully you're able to keep up with us. I mean, we go from one topic to another. Even going through trying to edit this, kind of break down segments of the podcast, and there's a laundry list of basic segments or topics that we discuss on, basically jumping from one to the next to the next to the next. So hopefully you're able to keep up with this. And with that, let's get into the episode.
Of course, you got all the companies that there's one in particular.
Hopefully you're able to keep up with
which
this.
Unfortunately they sell like a whole laundry list of different products. But their claim is they're a local Midwest company.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, I'm like, I've never really heard of this company before. I started looking into it. Where's their headquarters? Beijing.
Yeah.
Where's the shipment come from? Beijing. So it's and then they had this huge backstory about how how they developed the company, and
yeah.
This is all fake.
It's such a I get it. I understand, because you are either do we produce, source, and manufacture in the U.S. and charge what is going to be a markup where we could survive, or do we produce an 80% as good quality product for 1/10 the cost?
Yep.
And then have to sell a lot less of a markup, because people are either going to complain about the price or the quality or where it comes from. So I think I don't like the misleading stuff. Just tell the truth. Yeah, the idea was founded here, but we have our parts come from this country or is assembled here.
Yeah, and there's a few companies that are straightforward about especially game cameras. There's one company in particular, Exodus trail cameras. We partnered in China because they can make the parts far more cost effective than what we can
And
here in the
to
States.
be fair, for tech, who's going to be really mad about that? Not with bows and guns and stuff. There's a totally different thing. But for apparel, I don't really care.
Yeah.
But yeah, for tech, that makes sense.
Yeah, and the other big one is tree stands and stuff like that. There's a lot of guys that are making their stuff overseas because they can get it cheaper.
Yeah, I want some quality on that. I worked in the hospital, and I have been there for many men who have fell upwards of 40 feet, and it's I think a few of them were kind of faulty equipment type deals, and no thank you.
Yeah, I know Dan Infalt, he even acknowledged that he was doing some business out of China. He's yeah, we basically gave them the specs. They sent us the prototype and whatever. It made matched everything we wanted. He's and then all of a sudden they started producing with a different grade aluminum.
Yeah.
And he's and then they send it, and then so we're selling it. And now, we're saying it's a certain grade, but yet truly, and then we go back to them. They're oh yeah, sorry, next time we'll do it right.
No,
it's
that's a nightmare, especially for equipment like that has safety, such a large involvement of the equipment. That's not
Yeah.
a good way to go.
Yeah, so I've made a point to try to find as much of my, especially the hunting stuff, because I don't know. For me, it's like if you're going to go with like American, like if you're going to be hunting in America and whatnot, like you should try to like get most of your hunting stuff.
Who's
from
like the
America.
premier hunting brand right now?
It kind of depends on what you're looking at, like clothing wise.
Under Armour?
Not really. No, like I mean, they produce a lot of different products, but it's not like the type echelon type stuff. Like a company like First Light, they're a big one. A lot of out west clothing, Sitka. You've got Forlow.
Wait.
Well, they're a boat company.
Do they make like apparel too, or?
They've got like their logo wear and whatnot.
Okay.
You've got Scentlock. Trying to think of some. I'm sure there's other ones, but those are really the only ones I really ever pay attention to. And then I'm actually pretty excited because, Jocko Willink and his company Origin.
Yeah.
They actually created a hunting line.
Is he a big hunter, or I haven't listened to his stuff in a long time.
He got into it, I think, probably even through like Joe Rogan or something like that.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it's kind of weird because that he's done a few hunts, and like even to see him, like some of the stuff he posts, like him in like hunting gear and like holding the bow and whatnot, like
Great.
He has that like that same look, but now he's like in hunting apparel,
Yeah.
so it's like he looks kind of like I don't know.
No, I think it's great, and I really enjoy it. People are getting into hunting and things of that nature, but I think people are getting kind of a warped sense of what hunting is from these guys who are multimillionaires who are getting into it. It's a lot of hurry up and wait, and it's a lot of disappointing hunts until you actually get good. Mm-hmm. When you have unlimited money, you can have guides, you can have the best materials, you can hunt in the best areas.
Yeah. I mean, there's hunters that they'll put out that they've worked really hard and whatnot. Especially if like elk's a big one. Like some of the other
it's all guides.
It's guided, or it's like like a $20,000 tag. Or
Yeah.
like hunting this a prime area that's like limited access.
Basically a reserve.
Yeah.
And then I did it the hard way, air quotes, like kind of. You didn't go to the store, I guess.
Yeah, because it's still technically hunting. I mean, even if you're in a prime spot, I mean, it's still hunting. Things can go wrong. You can have
100%.
You can have a tough time, but if you've got the money and the resources, you can get into areas that other people can't.
Oh yeah,
and
absolutely.
Have much easier time.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with it, but I think it's kind of like the Instagram models to women, like men to like people that are hunting. Like it's fun. I think part of what I love about it's the tranquility and the patience you have to develop, but you only see the highlights from these people.
Yeah, because you can deal with that, especially now with me, being part of the content creator in the hunting space. Like when I'm trying to talk about like different things and my hunts and whatnot, and I'm not killing any deer, and then on social media it's nothing but big bucks being killed.
Oh yeah,
like it's very easy to fall in the trap. Like I'm the only one not killing a deer. I'm a terrible hunter. I can't.
Yeah, and there's so much one-upperism in the hunting world. That's why I'm just brutally honest about my hunting experience, because I don't care. I'm happy with what I did. Cool. Everybody's just like, you could say I shot an 8-point. I shot a 9-point. Cool, man. I was just talking about the deer. Like, that's awesome. Good for you. Like,
yeah. There was a big. I think it's coming around now, but there's a lot of like shaming of people that were shooting like younger deer or smaller deer.
Yeah.
And even like you got to change the mindset of the individuals that kill those deer, because like they'll put it into like, yeah, not the biggest rack, but you can't eat the antlers type deal. It's like, you know what? No, you were happy with shooting that deer.
If it's legal, and go ahead. Also, I look at deer completely differently now that I've almost died multiple times from them jumping out in front of my cars. I've had no at-fault accidents in my life. The only like real accidents I've had have been with deer. I look at them as like nothing much bigger than sewer rats. Like, I'm not gonna mow them down. I'm gonna stay within the limits. But like if I can take one, I still feel bad, which is kind of messed up. But I feel way less bad now because they are somewhat nuisance.
Yeah. So, like, did you really ever hit any deer before you started working for Manistee? Because I know you had quite a few of them during that stretch.
I think it was all of them. I think it was all of them except for one time I was going to the gym in Mesick. And each one actually turned out like I made the right decision for each one. It was like 9 Mile in a convertible, like worst case scenario. There's bushes there, it jumps out last second, and I didn't try and swerve or anything like that. Then I totaled my car in front of the prison. I may or may not have driven it back to the hospital, which is where the police station's at. The road was clear. They were fine, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the last one coming back from the gym in my truck and 3 different vehicles.
Yeah.
Explain that. Driving back from the truck, and like all of a sudden it was like boom, it was icy roads, and my truck is very prone to spin. It's rear-wheel drive. There was like 6 deer in the road, and if I would have swerved, it would have been way worse. That was the only one I got repaired. The other ones were already totaled. But yeah, deer there. I don't get it, man, but I do get it. They've only had about 100 years to try and figure out what roads mean, and they've had thousands of years to figure out what everything else means. So
Yeah.
it makes sense.
So what do you think? What is your mindset then? Like, do you think there's just too many deer around in the area, so you're more open to kill one because you know that?
No, I think
everywhere?
I think I attract wildlife. I mean, there was a span of, like the deer I got this season, Ty. If I wanted to wait till it got from me to you, like I've had experiences where deer almost stepped on my feet. I don't know if I'm quiet. I'm not saying I'm special or anything. But there was a span of like 100 car trips in a row I saw fox and/or fox families. It was just like they were just running around. It's like maybe my electromagnetic field's a little different or something. Because I know some people never see anything.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, what deer just it's like almost like they don't know I'm there or something. But with the in the vehicles or the car, I don't know, man. I think they're very confused, and they're like, "Oh, well, I probably should pass now." And then it's like the exact wrong time. They're just, I don't understand it, man. They're weird.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. Like your mindset of that, like you said, they've evolved thousands of years, and they've only had a short period to get used to traffic.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
it's gonna take them a while to figure it out.
It's like it's moving so fast they want to take a look at it, but they don't realize it's going to hit them.
Yeah. And again, I'm sure like the headlights and everything like that like throws them off. So it's just like they don't understand the speed or anything.
No, man. I think the funniest one was the last deer I hit, which luckily did like no damage. This was only a few weeks ago.
Wait, you hit another one?
Yeah. Dude, I hit a deer on purpose one time. Oh my gosh, so the first deer I hit on purpose. I was driving down the road. It was kind of slick, and the deer saw me for like 200 yards and stood in the road. And it's like, no, I'm not moving. Like, I got to go through. I'm not going to stop. This car will not keep going. I'm in the snow. So I hit that deer doing about 20. It did like 2 barrel roll backflips. It got up and went, and then ran off. And I was like, I guess that worked out. But a couple of weeks ago, I saw like 4 deer running around in the field. I'm like, oh, okay, no problem. They're out in the field. I see them running around. I see them. I'm looking. And deer starts running for me while I'm on ice. And I'm like, whatever. And then it turns like it's going to run away. I'm like, okay, cool. And then does like a back jump hopscotch in front of my car. And it was like it was tricking me to get hit for some reason. And thank God by that time I'd slowed down to about 25. But it was like, oh, you're going to hit me. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, oh, you will. And yeah, it got me. I would say I didn't hit that deer. That deer hit me.
Yeah.
It ran into me on purpose. It saw me, and it's like, oh, I want to be hurt today. It was great.
Did I ever tell you about my buddy who had a deer slam into the side of a company car that he was driving?
No.
And he was stopped?
Oh, yeah. No.
So he was over in Wisconsin where he was working. A vehicle had stopped in front of him that was waiting for a deer to pass. That vehicle started going, and he was still stopped, and all of a sudden the deer slams into the side of the vehicle.
Makes sense, dude. They're stupid. They're so smart and so stupid at the same time. That's kind of what I feel the same way about myself. Like there's certain things I'm really smart at and certain things I'm really dumb at. It's like in the woods, they're so smart, but then for like vehicles or anything modern technology wise, they're just like, ooh, what's that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, like, so yeah, you've had a different mindset change in regards to deer and deer hunting, which I don't know. I mean, do you think that has part of it to do with like some of your mindset, at least in regards to like venison meat and everything like that, with your change of your?
It's delicious. I love it. I've always liked it. I've never been real persnickety about what I eat. I'll eat squirrel or whatever. I view venison as like really clean and normal, but I know there's some people that think it's disgusting, which I can kind of understand. It's a lot of people like to be as uninvolved with the process as possible, and to them, it just comes from the store, and that's what they want.
Yeah.
Not hating, but I don't get it because I like knowing I'm one of the only people that touch the food that I'm eating. I think that's great. Some people don't want to. You can handle it, Walmart. You can handle it, Meijer. You know, like
Yeah. There's definitely that disconnect, which, I mean, I think that's part of the reason why you got the big debate between people that like are anti-hunting and and the people that hunt.
Never understand, because I've heard people who are meat eaters, love steak, everything, and like genuinely vilify hunting above everything else. Like, oh, you think you're a big strong man going out there with a gun to kill a helpless deer? Da, da, da. It's like, I guess if you were an ethical vegan, I might listen to you a little more. But once again, even with the ethical vegan, specifically going after hunters is so weird, because if we're talking about misery and mistreatment on a grand scale, hunters are way down the list, man. You got factory farmers, you got regular farmers, you've got the slaughterhouses, you've got the chicken coops, I mean, we can go down the line here. Like, hunters and vegans are a lot closer than anybody ever wants to admit.
Yeah, that, and I used to listen to a podcast where the host would try to like convey that with like people that were anti-hunting or vegan or environmentalists or animal rights activists. He's like, we actually agree on more things than what we disagree. Like, like we care about these animals just as much as you do. It's just how we handle like the animal numbers is different.
I will say some ethical vegans that I know, I genuinely love and enjoy, because I love and enjoy principled people. Even if our principles differ, I like people where you know where they stand. They're not just all wishy-washy. Like, I'm a vegan, but I just the intellectual inconsistency of specifically hating hunters shows, I don't want to say lack of IQ, but kind of a lack of understanding, I guess.
Yeah, and I always put a caveat on that too. Is like they have the principle, but then they know why they have that principle.
Yeah,
like the reason behind it. It's not because it's not because they think it's just a moral high ground. It's like, no, this is the reason why. Like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
And if I genuinely thought I could get the nutrition I needed, not from animals. And I've tried it before. I think I went vegan for 60 days, and I thought I was going to die. It was awful. Before I learned anything. Yeah. I did like a 60-day green juice fast, and it was bad. It was a bad time. And then I did some like reintroduction of fruits and vegetables, and my brain just, I think as far as the brain goes for like vitamin D, omega-3s, like fat-soluble vitamins, you can kind of synthesize and recreate them from a vegan form, but it is a very low bioavailability for those things. You have to like 10x dose, or else you're not going to get anywhere near what you need.
Yeah, we've talked about too. Like you've even done like a strict carnivore for a time frame too. And yeah, when you, especially like you cut out a lot of like the processed stuff, and like even just going with like a low carb, like high fat, high protein, like basically more or less meat, eggs, that type of stuff, you feel really good. Yeah,
I will say I think strict carnivore is only truly needed for people that have like autoimmune diseases. I think if 95% of the world, if they just ate real food, like things that are actually food, eat as much as you want.
Yeah.
You know how hard it is to overeat real food? Like, try and eat 20 bananas. It's not going to happen.
Right. Yeah. And we've talked about it. We're both in agreement. Like, eating foods in the simplest form.
Yeah.
Like,
actual food.
Yeah, like not
know?
getting like the processed juices and whatnot. Like actually eat an orange or
Yeah, sure.
or an apple or something like that. Like
Because once you take, especially with like fruits and like once you take the bran and the coenzymes and everything, and you separate it from the glucose, it's not really the same thing anymore.
right.
You know, even like if you leave the whole fruit in the smoothie, breaking those cell walls and separating it, it changes how your body digests things. But on a different note here, when did you start hunting? Like, have you hunted your whole life or no?
Yeah, I started out really young. You know, I grew up. My dad, he hunted, so I would go out with him when he hunted. He was a trapper. I started out fishing when I was quite young. I mean, there's pictures of me like 2, 3 years old out ice fishing, you know, fishing off the dock and stuff like that. I mean, I got into bass fishing as a kid. I actually, you know, was even considering becoming a professional bass fisherman at one time.
I knew one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was our neighbor growing up. This guy, I would label him the most interesting man I've probably ever met in my life. His name was Jim Bates. Maybe you'll hear this. He was a professional basketball player. He was also a professional gambler. He was also a professional fisherman. And you would not believe this guy for any one of those until he brought up the receipts. One time he took me to his basement. He had 27 coolers, all full of tackle. Because they, on like the professional fishing tours, you know, through promotions and your sponsorships, you can get as much tackle as you want.
Yeah.
Brand new lures. Yeah, I think being a professional fisherman would be cool. It's not necessarily my thing. I've had some fun fishing, but I'd go with you, but I'm not going to go by myself. Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, the professional side, especially like bass fishing, which is such a big industry. Like I listen to some guys that talk about, and that like a lot of people just like that grind, like that burns out more fishermen that think they're going to be professional fishermen than what you would think.
I'd have to imagine with those niche sports and games, and it's got to be like similar idea to like poker. Like you can do it, but you have to put in the time, and eventually you might get your break. But it's going to be grind and 16-hour days. Because right now, off the top of my head, could I name a current professional fisherman? Nope, I couldn't tell you one. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean that they're not making money, but I have to imagine their tournament placings are a little less than the PGA.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and again too, like I think the other aspect is too is like even I kind of found myself in a little bit like doing like creating content about hunting and whatnot. Like you feel a little bit of pressure with it, and so it's like I'm taking something that I love, and now I'm like making it work, and so it kind of changes that dynamic a little bit. So it like I could see like especially on the professional side, like you're taking like what you love, and now it's turned into like a stressful like business. That you have
That's
to deal
fair.
with.
That's why for certain like endeavors and passions of mine, I've never accepted money for them, or I've taken the money that I've gotten and donated it. Just getting money involved definitely makes things real squirrely. But with fishing, have you ever done any netting, like smelt netting or anything like that?
I haven't, no.
Is that still allowed, or do you have to have a special license?
I'm pretty sure it's still allowed.
I love smelt.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't really do that style of fishing, so I imagine that it's still, you know, regulated where you can still do that. Yeah, I was never really interested in that side of it.
Okay. So what was your first hunt ever? Or what's the first time fishing you remember ever? Because that's probably your before the hunt.
One of the first ones I can actually like vividly remember is like my dad took me out to one of my favorite lakes. I even like taking the kids out to the same lake. He gave me like a little redhead, like little surface bait, like popper, which I actually still have. But yeah, I took it out there, and yeah, we just went around this lake, walking like along the shore because we didn't have a boat or anything at the time, and I was just catching bass. And then that's when I got hooked on the bass fishing.
Okay.
For hunting wise, I mean, I started out. I don't know if I really started doing much archery hunting right off the get-go. I think I started out with my rifle first. You know, it was one of the very first years that they started the youth hunt in September.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I was right in that wheelhouse age group where I was like I was able to do it like one of the first years.
Okay.
I don't remember if it was exactly the first year that they offered it, but it was towards the beginning.
Okay.
And
Were
yeah,
you successful?
yeah, actually, that first year, I think, yeah, we went out and it was, I think the first morning even, we hunted at our neighbor's property, and I mean, it was like one of those, just kind of like a fluke thing where we were watching like over this hayfield,
Yeah.
and some deer showed up next to us, and we had to like shimmy around to try to get a shot at it. Uh, I don't know, I probably wouldn't do it now, but the only thing we had was like a neck and up available.
Okay.
I took a neck shot, missed it the
Well,
first.
the youth hunt, you were kind of allowed to take whatever you wanted for the most part.
Yeah, and actually, back then there wasn't even the antler point restrictions. At least,
Yeah.
at least for the county we lived in. So it was. I mean, anything with antlers was legal.
Yeah.
But end up missed it the first shot, and because it's so early in the season and it was a younger buck, it looked back behind itself like, what the heck was that? Because I hit a tree behind it, got a follow up shot, and then I mean. Yeah, that was the first buck. I remember we drove around for like the whole rest of the day, going to all my dad's buddies, like showing off this deer, and it's like 80 degrees in September, and I'm just like, we need to get this deer. Like, don't we have to get this thing taken care of? And yeah, just riding around in the back of the truck, just like going from one house to the other, showing off this deer.
That's pretty great, man.
But yeah, and then after that, I mean, hunted off and on, did a little bit of bow hunting back then, wasn't successful at all, and then.
Never done any actual bow hunt. I've done crossbow hunting. I don't know if people count that or not, but I kind of don't.
I would, because again, you're the big thing about crossbows is that you take out a lot of human error. Like you still have to be able to get within a certain distance, because crossbows, yeah, they can fire out to like 100 yards, but even that, you still want to be like 40 yards or in.
What's up with some of those minis? Those like $2,500 ones that like they're only about 24 inches and they fire like for 150. What is going on with those?
Honestly, for the size wise, I think they're just trying to make them lighter, easier to handle.
Yeah.
Kind
of freaky.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of power in those things. That's the scary part. Is I mean, there's some crossbows out there now that are pushing almost 500 feet per second, if not more. So yeah, there's a lot of power in them. That's why, like more often than not, like you're replacing strings on these and limbs on these crossbows more often than you are for a compound, because, I mean, that's a lot of energy going.
Lots of tension.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, for that, I mean, yeah, you just take out some of the human element because you don't have as many moving parts.
Yeah.
In regards to human error, with a crossbow in comparison to a compound, or even recurve is even more. There's even more potential for human error, as you know, because you dabble in shooting.
Yeah, I have a 1953 Bear recurve bow. I have an uncle. I love him, but he's like always telling stories, and it's weird because you start to think they're all stories until like 1 out of every 10 is true. It's great. He's hilarious. And he's like, yeah, I got a Bear recurve bow. I'm like, sure you do. It's a 1953. It's in mint condition. I'm like, whatever. He's like, I'll give it to you as a gift. I'm like, okay. So I've always been like a big Ted Nugent and Fred Bear fan. And yeah, turns out it's like it's the real deal. It has even what's the part that connects the bow. My bow terminology is horrible. So where you put the arrows on, the little arms that go on it.
Oh, for like to add like a quiver to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then got it restrung and everything, and it's so weird. So I grew up shooting competition rifle and being part of a gun club, and I got into hunting because my grandfather, he was a gunsmith, and he was who took me hunting. But with the bow, the difficulty is so weird, especially with the recurve, because one, I didn't know what I was doing, and I caught the inside of my arm a couple times, and that was bad. Never thought my arm would turn colors like that. And then the range is even worse. Starting off, I was like, oh, I'll start from 25 yards. That's short. No, you have to start from like 10.
Yep.
10, and then work your way back, like a yard per week or whatever.
Yeah, no, I haven't shot in a longbow since as a kid. We had recurves at the time, but
what's the difference between a longbow and a recurve?
Just kind of the styling.
Because I know there is a difference.
Yeah, it's kind of to my understanding, it's just the design of the arms or the limbs.
Okay.
Recurve is going to have that more of like a bend backwards. I do think you get a little bit more energy out of that.
Okay.
The longbow is just again just even more so like a more traditional.
The cool thing about the bow is how much it coincides with human history as a whole. You know, like it was not that long ago that recurve that I have was the premier weapon in the human race. You know, if you're looking at human as a whole, we've only had relatively good guns for an hour if you put all the timeline together. And it's just like, man, how did you see some of the things, some of the big game people have bagged with bows? I have no idea how that's possible. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I kind of get it, but I really don't.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, some people, especially like with the traditional bows or a traditional like stick bow, I went to an archery shoot a couple years ago, and they had like an elk target out at 100 yards, and like you got a prize if you hit it, and like I mean, even with most people, even with their compounds, with their high speed bows, couldn't get it. I couldn't get it. I kept getting close, but like even with my setup, like I'm not set up to be able to shoot that far.
Well, that's so much drop.
Yeah.
The angle has to be ridiculous at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I was aiming probably like in the tree line behind the target. I was halfway up the trees.
Yeah.
And I was still shooting low.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But there was a guy, he got it with his recurve.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many shots he took, but like they're talking about like, oh yeah, we had a guy hit it with his recurves like
from 100 yards.
From 100 yards out.
That's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, and that's just familiarity with his setup, with his bow.
Oh, some guys, and that's I've learned the secret to anything, and I mean anything. I was like, oh, you can get some tips and stuff to get good with my recurve. What's really going to help me is putting 20,000 shots through it.
Yep.
That's what's honestly going to help. The tips and tricks, yeah, they're going to be helpful. Technique's going to be helpful. At the end of the day, you get the reps in.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that was the biggest thing, too. Like, that was one thing that I did, even as shooting compound. Like, you kind of go into, you think you're pretty good. But then, like, yeah, the more arrows you put through, you just get that more and more consistency down. Like, when you first start shooting, you'll have like a flyer here and there, or your groups will be a certain size. And then, as you continue to shoot, I guess it just shrinks down and more you get less like random, flyer arrows.
Yeah.
And then even like, that's why like even every year I reset and do like my whole training regimen over for that next year. Because even, during the off season when I'm not shooting my bow nearly as much, I notice that my accuracy goes way down, and I have to redial everything back in again.
And for something of that nature, it's kind of like what would be a good kind of like pool or whatever. You can get in your own head.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's any sport that like it's a slower sport, like
precision and accuracy.
Yeah, like any type of shooting sport.
Golf.
Like golf, exactly. That golf is another good one. Where like, yeah, the moment you start getting frustrated, the moment you start overthinking things, that's when things can go awry.
You have to figure out how to care and not care at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a very bizarre idea because it's like you want to win, you want to make the shot, but also wanting it too much. That's another thing with life. It's really odd. You can do everything right and still come up short by being too tense. Like, of the shots I made with my bow that were pretty nice, honestly, I just kind of cleared my mind and just realized it's just a target and let's make it happen. The time I was really, really trying, all garbage.
Let me ask you that, too. Like, so on those shots that, like, when you just made, like, an absolute perfect shot, like, did you know that you made a perfect shot even before the arrow landed? Or were you surprised?
So this is kind of something weird for me. I've been to a bunch of codes in my life, which is kind of where people are dying and they need help. And for my deer that I've gotten, I'm not able to artificially manufacture it that often, but I get into a certain spot where I have an internal monologue that is pestering me 24/7. And once in a while, I can turn that off, and with the shots and everything, it's just nothing. It's gone. Like, I am aware, I hear, but it's like one of the few times my internal monologue's gone. Just like for like emergency situations, those shots on the deer that I got with rifle, for the like 10 seconds leading up to it, there's just nothing. I see what I see, I know what I have to do, and I do it.
Yeah.
When the internal monologue's running, can I get a good shot? Sure. Could I get a perfect shot? Maybe, but the probability is so much lower if I just get in my own head. But you can't. It's so weird because I've tried doing the not thinking about it at all. That doesn't work. You have to like think about it, pick a time frame where it's like 5 seconds before and after, or 10 seconds before and after, where you just go into that kind of flow state, and then you just let it rip, and then see, like, recalibrate. Like, was that helpful? Did that setup work? And it's cool to get in your own head when you're done, but getting in your own head during is not helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I've dealt with that. Not so much on the rifle side, but on the archery side, especially. Like, especially if it takes a while for the deer to get within range. Like, I see it from a distance, it's coming in slowly. Like, I get all sorts of shook up. Like, I start shaking. Like, I can feel my heart rate going. And, like, it's not until I get to, like, full draw do I calm down. Like, as soon as I get to full draw,
same idea. Same idea. You know it.
Yep.
Because it's you just got to let go at some point.
Yep.
Like, you are gonna let the shot go. It's gonna be what it's gonna be.
Yep. Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
And that's exactly it. Like, the entire time up until I get to full draw, I'm thinking of everything that can go wrong. Like, the deer can do this, they can do this, they can see me, they can smell me. Like, they're going to see me move. But as soon as I get to full draw, as long as the deer hasn't taken off at that point.
Do you bay before you shot? Because I've watched, like, a lot of bow hunting compilations, and it seems like almost every guy does that meh thing.
It all depends. Like, if it's moving, like the one I missed this year, I did, because I was trying to get him to stop. So basically he was coming through, like, again, I don't know why this deer did this. Like, my dad saw him, like, he was heading out closer to the big field. This deer, like, nonchalantly walked across the field, looking around. He'd stop, put his head down, eat. As soon as he got to the woods where I was, he started, like, trotting. For no reason that I know of. Like, he hit the wood line and then proceeded to start jogging. Like, even though he walked calmly across a wide open field in broad daylight, he hit the timber and proceeded to think he had to hurry through. So I basically, had to, by the time I saw him, I grabbed my bow, spun around, and by the time I did that, he had already, like, passed where I could get a shot at him, like, basically getting towards the other side of the tree. So I spun around the other side, and at that point, he was almost getting to where he would have been out of range. So I did that, stopped him, and I guesstimated what the range was, kind of having ranged the area before. Well, shot right over his back because he was 5 yards closer than what I thought.
Oh, great.
So basically, yeah, I had my pin where I'm like, all right, my 30-yard pin, I'm going to put it right over his back. It's going to drop right in, thinking that he was 35 yards. Well, he was at 30, and the arrow went right over his back, right at that 30-yard mark.
That sounds like my first time hunting ever.
Yeah?
Yeah, that was I literally it was the worst. I just fresh coming off shooting competition, everything like that. Like, I can shoot the tip off a Q-tip with peep sights from 50 yards. Been doing it over and over. I was going to hunt. It was an old gravel quarry. I was with my grandpa, Steve Duber, my dad, and my blind, air quotes, was a lawn chair, one of the white ones with the back of the legs cut off, stuck into the side of a hill, face down like 30 yards down a pretty steep hill. Well, I'd been out there a bunch of times, but I had not went out there in the dark. So it's about 5 a.m., if not earlier. We're going out there. I was told to be in there hour before sun, real old school stuff, hour before sunrise, everything.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find it on the side of this hill. I can't find it to save my life. I trip and fall and roll over, and then, like, I'm already worked up. I'm on the verge of tears. I think it's, 14 for rifle, like I'm a kid, or 16 or whatever. And I finally find it. I sit down. Sunlight comes on. I see an 8-point right in the clearing where I'm supposed to shoot, and I'm just all sorts of excited, and this is going to be great. This is what we waited for, and like I said, I was a better shooter then than I am now. Like I've regressed over time. Back then was probably my prime, and I line it up, do the half breath and squeeze and everything. Deer just looks at me, and I'm like, "What's okay?" I take another shot. Deer just looks around and bolts off, and I'm like, okay, maybe, because I was like, oh, I've heard of people having to track him. Maybe they're just in him, and he's gonna need to be tracked. But the way he ran, I was like, let's not discount the possibility of missing. A little later, a 7-point comes out. Once again, get a really nice, perfect shot. He was broadside. He was like chest to me. I shoot, and he just kind of put his head down to eat a little bit, and a lot of deer, they do not bolt when you shoot. It's really weird. I've had that a few times where deer, they might do a little if you get scared and freeze up, but then just kind of go about their normal life. Missed that one. Then I was like, I guess I missed that one. Come back later, same day, and the most beautiful symmetrical 10-point I've ever seen in my life comes out, and it stands to the side to me, maybe a 60-yard shot, maybe. And I'm money from probably 200, 300. And first shot, he doesn't even move or make a sound or anything. I'm like, what is going on? I get a second shot. He just pulled his head up, and he's like, what are you doing, dude? I'm trying to eat over here. And then I take a third shot, and at this point, I'm on the verge of tears because I'm like, I didn't think I was this bad, but apparently, and he just up and runs away. Clearly, now that I know what I know, clearly unshot. I literally took the next day off of school to go, air quotes, track these deer. Well, what had happened when I had walked out to my my deer blind is I had bumped the scope when I fell, and I was shooting 18 to 20 inches high. Oh, it was a really major, and oh my God, I hadn't even thought about that. It was something that just didn't compute in my head, which, it was horrible. I was a kid, and that's a mistake I'll never make again. And then the next year, I get out there. It's one of the opening days. I get my buck, 1 shot, 1 kill. It literally dies in place, perfect shot. And it's it was redemption. It felt so good to go from missing, because I was always told 1 shot, 1 kill. I have a little bit of an aversion to, unless necessary, put a second round through.
Right.
And, yeah, dude, that first experience, though, it was so humbling. It was so heartbreaking, though. But to come back and have that redemption the next year, it almost made it better. So it's part of life, right?
Yep. Yeah, and especially in the hunting world, too, that's part of hunting. I've had success with deer hunting, both rifle and bow, and you'll get those times where you're gonna screw it up, things are gonna go wrong, and it's it tears you up.
Yeah, I've had fun small game hunting. I like small. That's actually my greatest hunting highlight ever. The 2 birds 1 shot was great. Killed 2 pheasant with 1 shot.
Nice.
That was fun. What else have I? We went squirrel hunting together. That was pretty great.
Yeah, that was
nothing.
That was more or less just a walk in the woods. Yeah.
Yep. That was, which I'll tell you, anybody listening to this, something I've learned is, and I think some people get frustrated with me. I think the prize is getting to hunt. Some people are so tied to the outcomes that it stresses me out. You're that with, I'm happy to be able to be out here. I'm grateful, and I guess some people say, you could say that because you got a deer last season. Yeah, I guess, but it wasn't anything special, but it was cool to get it was the first time I ever got a deer on my property, which was really interesting. And it was the deer wanted me to take it. It was asking me, because it just came up and looked at me, and I'm like, it's not the greatest shot. And for every deer after that first year of hunting, it's been one shot, one kill. They literally die in place. Like, I'm anal retentive about taking the perfect shot. I will forego a good shot if I can't get a perfect shot, just because I'm as big on the efficient harvest as possible. That's why I have not went hunting with my recurve. I refuse to go out at any type of position where I'm not absolutely dialed in to where I know I can take something.
Right.
And it was like 2 does, 3 other does, a couple small deer. They came out. One was clearly quite a bit older and bigger than the other. So walks around, go, and I think it was like a 40-yard shot. And I took the shot, and this is my first deer in a while, so I'm like freaking out. The other doe stands there, is looking at me, and I'm like, oh, should I take another one? I'm like, I don't want to do that. I did, once again, I felt like bad because there was some little deer with him there, and I'm like, oh, why? So eventually they run off. I pop out of my blind way faster than I should have. I make a bunch of mistakes, and then I can't find the deer for the life of me because I was like, oh, it has to be far out in the woods this way. And I like couldn't find it. My dad comes out, and the reason I couldn't find it is I had taken such a good shot. It had just jumped into the brush behind it and maybe moved like 5 feet. I thought there was no way. What it was is the other doe was what had, there was like 3 doe, 1 stayed, 2 deer. The other doe had jumped and ran off, and I was convinced it was my deer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that happens all the time. Like, even a couple years ago, when my dad got his buck, I shot a doe. Like, I heard him shot, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, I'm gonna take this doe because I didn't have any other bucks in front of me or anything like that. So, like, I'm just gonna take this doe. I shot her, and then like we're trying to track. We found some blood. I'm like, yeah, I swear it went this way. It went to the left. Like, and we spent like 20, 30 minutes trying to like figure out where this blood trail goes. And I finally back up, realized, oh no, she went to the right.
Oh, great.
So it's like we're going this direction, and the whole time she went the opposite direction.
Oh,
like,
great.
And like even like that, like me having harvest deer and like knowing like, hey, you got to pay attention after the shot. I still screwed it up and was thinking that the deer went one direction.
That's why I couldn't find it, because I like let it out of my line of sight when I was like trying to get out of the blind in the pop up.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's so hard too, because like unless you're like an absolute machine, like you're gonna get that adrenaline dump, and everything's gonna be moving 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And like you'll see it, but your brain won't process it. You won't retain it.
Yeah.
And then you'll like you said, like you didn't see that deer jump into that brush and like get out of your sight that quickly, and all of a sudden like your brain's seeing, oh, there's more deer. There's deer running. That must be the deer.
Yeah.
So happens all the time.
Yeah, and it's luckily I've never had to track one too far. It's I don't know. Some things don't make sense to me. Like when guys telling me they're taking shots from like 300 yards and stuff, like, are you just doing that for fun or to challenge yourself? Because in most of the places I've ever hunted, the farthest shot I could take is maybe 100 yards.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's always that. I mean, there's like the pride part about being able to take shots that far. Like
I know I can do it.
Yeah.
Like I had, it was funny. My dad and I had just gotten home from a Christmas party. We pull into the house, and there's a doe just begging me to shoot it in the backyard. But it's about 120 yards, and the Dallas Cowboys and Jaguars were on. I didn't feel like not watching the game, and I brought the ladder out, and like I could get a good shot on it, like a really good shot, but it wasn't the perfect shot. And just knowing that I don't really want to deal with it right now, like looking back, I regret it. I should have taken it. But I was like, I don't mind letting her get a year older. Next year, she's going to be an even better doe. She is pretty big. But, yeah, I think a lot of things just kind of, when people say they thought, well, I saw some stuff down in so I thought, so I shot. Like, no. No.
Yeah, that's always shocking. I don't know though. Like I could understand like how someone could like they like hear something or see something and like their mind tells them like they're seeing a deer, but they're really not. Like they get that worked up that quickly. Their buck fever, whatever you want to call it. Like they start hallucinating that they're seeing a deer.
It's crazy. I would say a lot of people are shoot first, identify later. I am extremely probably on the other end of identify first, shoot later. Like I've probably cost myself a fair amount of deer just because, once again, I like the efficiency of, how fast can we get this done as opposed to, I'll take a pop at it and we'll figure it out later. Because that's how you accidentally, shoot like things that you're not allowed to shoot. And what was it a few years ago? There was a brother and an uncle or brothers or something. And one shot the other one. It was like a super sad story because he was wearing brown, and they're like, "Oh, I thought it was a deer." Like,
yeah, I do kind of remember hearing that story, where he like it was it like his brother or brother-in-law or something. Like that?
Yeah. Maybe there's some fish. Maybe there's some fishy stuff in that story.
Maybe.
But I've heard people like in bars and stuff talk about, I thought I saw some brown in the bush. Like, I didn't know that's a dog.
Yeah. Well, it was a few years ago, or probably even more a few years ago. I think it was a lady shot an elk thinking it was a deer. It's like, yeah, it's ungulate, but
kind of.
She got it. I'm pretty sure it was a lady. I could be mistaken that.
All sorts of trouble.
All sorts of trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't play around with the DNR. I'm actually for my first buck I ever got, I was kind of freaked out because the property was lined up right next to a gentleman who used to be third in charge of the DNR, way up there. And I was so excited that I got my buck. I was like freaking out. And he came over, and I was like, I was like, he was retired, but I'm like, oh no, did I do something wrong? Did I not tag it right? Did I X, Y, or Z? And he was just excited to see a young person excited about hunting.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying the DNR are bad. I'm not trying to say, but you just mind your P's and Q's because they have more power here in Michigan than the state police do.
Yeah, and that's the issue too. Like I remember we've had some interactions with DNR, and even if you're not doing anything wrong, like you get put on edge because like it's amazing how many things you could be doing wrong and you don't realize you're doing things wrong.
Oh yeah.
So like the moment they're around, you're like, oh crap, and like what am I doing? Like is everything like?
And if they want to ding you, they can. I've seen for like when. We used to go out to Boardman for salmon fishing, and people foul hook salmon. It happens in accident, and you have to take the hook out like while in water. If you pull like any part of the fish out, you can get dinged with a pretty large fine for foul hooking or snagging. I saw a few people get tickets that were pretty ticky-tacky, and it's not small from what I understand. It's expensive, so
yeah.
I don't know. I think everybody hunts for different reasons. I'm probably 90% because I like want the meat, or it's broken down, but like to preserve the memory of my grandpa is a huge part of that because he taught me everything I know about hunting for the most part and shooting. And then for sport, I think a lot of people lie when they say they don't hunt for sport at all because if you see a 12 point out there, perfectly symmetrical rack, and you see an 8 point who is maybe 10 pounds heavier, which one are you going to shoot? They're going to shoot the 12 point every time.
Yeah,
don't lie to me.
And the 8 points, like 100 yards closer.
Yeah.
Chip shot compared to like a harder shot, like
they're going to shoot at the 12 point every time.
Yeah.
And same here. I'm not saying I wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I'm still a little bit of a sportsman in that sense.
Yeah. And again, the biggest thing is be honest with it. The sport is part of it. Like that's why I archery hunt.
Yeah.
Like for one, it's a different way of hunting. I actually like it. I think it's more
Well, you
fun.
make sure you're actually good. I know people who pop out that like couldn't hit the broadside of a barn, and that's why initially I thought it was awful that they allowed everybody to use crossbows, but now I'm like, that's great because I just want the lowering of wounded deer as opposed to harvested deer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a big discussion with that if crossbows actually do, prevent more wounded deer. I mean, probably to an extent, but then the problem is people got that false sense of like just pull the crossbow out, never shooting it, and then go hunting with it.
Yeah, just
so
pop it from like 150 yards, and yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Again, the big thing is like understanding like that. There's multiple layers to why an individual might hunt. Like. Again, archery, like I find it more fun. I like the fact I get a whole another month of hunting, so it gives me more opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then of course, like I love the going after deer because I find it fantastic. Like we talked about it. Like I actually prefer venison steaks over like beef steaks now. Like I just
venison steaks are awesome.
I've grown accustomed to the flavor, and anything outside of that tastes different to me.
Yeah, I think I go back and forth with so many things. I do I try to like be intellectually consistent. Should it just be rifle and things like if we're talking about like from an efficiency of harvest, you can't sit here and tell me, oh well, bow's the same. It's not. But from the tradition, and luckily I know most people that are into archery hunting are pretty well into it, and you're just not going to be able to stop bad actors no matter what. A lot of the bad actors don't even buy licenses, so I'm pretty big on if they want to hunt with bow, like do you like muzzleloader, and that's the one thing like. I almost don't even want to hunt with my recurve, but I feel like I have to because it was a gift from my uncle, and I just want to prove to myself that I can do it. Mm-hmm. But after I get one deer with it, I'm probably going to hang that thing up forever and just potentially stick to rifle, or maybe I'll do bow. I like bow. I like the work and discipline that it takes to do it right. It is kind of scary, though, that some people only draw back in the blind. That shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
Because I've had friends get deer that had gangrene because they got a arrow in their leg or in their neck or...
Yeah, which, I mean, even that, I mean...
part of the game. Even good people can have that happen.
Yeah, because I know there's been at least 3 deer that I've taken shots at that I didn't recover. And then there was 2 that I almost thought I wasn't going to recover, so it's...
So, what was that deer from the Coatmish area? What was that one called? The one that's supposed to be the world record?
Oh, the Rampola buck?
The Rampola buck. Have you ever talked to that guy?
No, he's pretty much...
hermit?
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of people that have tried to reach out to him,
okay.
tried to talk to him about it.
I kind of love it. I love lore, and I love could be true, not true, like legend and myth.
Yeah.
And I love how grown men get so upset about that. I almost, even if it is not true, I think it's hilarious because guys, like I've seen grown men like, that ain't no, there's no. I'm like, why do you care that much?
Yeah. I don't know why some people are so passionate. Like I know individuals that, knew Mitch or know Mitch that are strong defenders of him. Like even my dad. Like my dad,
I'm sure he's a great guy.
Had gone to whitetail, banquets with him and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
So he knew him personally. Probably I don't know if they were really good friends, but they were acquaintances, and they knew each other. So, yeah, when he got that buck, I mean, my dad was one of the first ones again that knew about it and was all pumped for him.
I hope it's real. I'm from Northern Michigan. I've always been, and it's one of my favorite qualities about myself. I am genuinely happy at the success of others, even if it's locally, even if that's something that I want to be successful at, because I know it holds no bearing on my potentiality of success in that endeavor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, I want it to be true. I want it to be real, but there's a lot of evidence that points that it's not, and it's hard to swallow.
But it's fun. Man, I don't know. I would like to see that guy do some type of an interview, and who knows? Maybe he's just a troll. Like he knows but he's just doing it to like ruffle people's feathers. That wouldn't be that cool, but I think it'd be funny.
Yeah, because you're one that actually enjoys poking the bear and
because like is it? I think one of the best things I've ever learned in my life, and I think I use it as a natural defense mechanism because I'm a worrier and like I care too much. But for any of your problems, somebody told me, have you tried caring less? And every time I've done that, it does make it better because worrying has never helped a situation.
Right.
Worrying has never made a situation better. Worrying about getting a deer. Like when I went out for my hunt, I had been on a deer drought forever. And I'm just like, I'm happy to be out here. It's cold, whatever. And like, I wasn't thinking I was going to see a doe or anything. Or a baby deer or whatever, and yeah, it just came out. You can up your likelihood of success in hunting, but at the end of the day, part of what makes it fun is the chips are going to fall where they may.
Yep. Yeah, that's one thing. Especially the more I've hunted, or as I've grown, understanding of hunting and hunted more. Like even if you do everything 100% correct, like it's still up to the deer
Yeah.
what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
So like yeah, you can be in the perfect spot, have everything perfect, and like I've had nights where like if you look at like the weather forecast and like all the like the documentation, like their deer should be moving, they should be feeding.
Yeah.
And like I've sat in front of my perfectly well manicured food plot
Put all the time and effort in.
and had not a single deer show up.
Oh yeah.
It's like there's no reason why they shouldn't be here.
Yeah, it's just like life. And that's what I love about hunting. It's what I love about hunting. It's what I love about boxing. Like there's certain things that mirror life. And with hunting, it kind of shows you the unfortunate truth. Like we just said, in life, you can do everything right and still have things blow up in your face.
Yep.
But it doesn't mean you shouldn't continue to try to do the right thing.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You take whatever knowledge you gained from that situation, try to apply it again.
Yeah.
See if you change.
Recalibrate and just keep pushing. And it's tough because, yeah, I know people that have went on droughts forever. Something I always like to talk about is I actually shot a buck before my dad ever did. Just saying. But he just kept hunting and kept going for it, and he's been real successful over the last few years. More successful than me, you know?
Yeah, it seems like I don't know. Like, do you think that he's like taking a higher priority to hunt more, or do you think he's just because you think maybe like
I think when I got into it and my grandpa got into it, I think both of us, a huge part of it is just, like because of my grandpa, like getting into it from there. It was fun. He was a funny guy. It was great. I remember one of my favorite hunting memories is we're sitting out there. My grandpa's in a blind, probably 40 yards down from me. I'm in a different blind. And I look back and he was a smoker, and I saw like just tufts of smoke coming out of the top of his chimney of his blind. I was sitting there laughing so hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You could tell at that point we had been out there for like a few hours, and he's just like, they're not going to show up anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, because that's something like, yeah, same thing. Like I went on a 13-year dry spell with no deer as well. And I went through the process of like, I hunted, but I wasn't all that serious about it. I'd go out for like opening day, maybe a couple other days outside of that. And that was about it.
I think that's the majority of people.
I think so too. Because yeah, I know I've definitely gone on a deep end where I'm a fanatic about it. Like I think about hunting every day of the year, and that's just where I'm at now. Like for a while it would be like 3 months out of the year I wouldn't think
like
about it.
Sport or practicality that it leans towards? Because I would say it's typically advantageous to have a freezer full of venison. Actually, that summer sausage you made, I wasn't just saying that. It was the best summer sausage I ever had. It's really good.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
I talked to Kim about that. I'm like, Jonathan says the best he's ever had, but he also said that breakfast sausage I made was pretty darn fantastic too. And I know that breakfast sausage was subpar.
It was dry, but I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it was. But I just put a bunch of butter in it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
it
said
was
that
good.
that's what you do. You doctored up. But yeah, I don't know. For me, I think it's both. Like especially, like for most of the year, I'm worried about the sports side, but I also know like I want to improve my odds, so I put forth a lot of work to be able to accomplish, harvest some deer. Now, especially like the fact that they've opened up the doe seasons and the doe tags, like I harvested 3 does this year, and like I got a full freezer because of it.
Heck yeah,
And,
man!
and like,
I'm gonna have to steal some of that canned venison off you.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to make more because I mean we've already eaten half of what I made.
Or I could just give you some of my venison, pay you to make it. That'd be cool.
Well,
Do you use ground or do you use tenderloin or steak?
I used sirloin. I
Okay,
took the sirloins
okay.
and then some. I don't remember which one it was. If it was the bottom round or top round, because I didn't think I had enough, so I cubed up some of the round
Yeah.
as well. But I mean, it's one of those things. Like I was always so intimidated by the process, but now that I've done it, it's like it's one of the easiest things you can do. With like I don't know. Hindsight is probably easier than freezing it because you don't have to worry about like unthawing it.
to can it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like once it's canned, like it's technically already cooked.
I'm not gonna lie. I grew up pretty country. I've been around some real redneck, hillbilly stuff. And I'm not saying it's redneck or hillbilly. I've seen almost anything you could do to a deer. I don't think I've ever seen canned venison in my life. I didn't know that was a thing, man. I'm being honest.
Yeah, I knew it was a thing, but it was one of those things. Like, I was more worried I was gonna screw it up and like poison the whole family, like like give them like rotten meat or something that didn't seal
So
properly.
what's in everything that's in that jar? Venison, salt.
And a little bit of pepper I put in with it.
That's it?
That's it.
No sugar, no nothing?
Nothing else.
Yeah, that sounds pretty awesome.
Yep. Yeah, put it in my pressure canner again. Because of it being meat and the low pH that it is, you got to make sure it cooks to the right atmosphere essentially, because otherwise you could, there's some bacteria or whatever that could be in it.
No, yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, I mean,
you're ingesting it, so let's be smart here.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, it was like 75 minutes at 11 atmosphere or whatever, and then that was it. It was done.
Nice, man.
But yeah, I mean, fantastic. I mean, it was so good that even Kira now, she's like, I'm gonna go deer hunting now.
Oh, y'all should give it a try. It smelled great. I haven't tried it quite yet.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you need to go over? We need to talk about?
I don't think so, man. I mean, we honestly didn't really get into some of the stuff that I was actually thought.
We could always do another episode.
Yeah. I mean, I love the fact though that we went on so many tangents and went on so many avenues.
Yeah, I think a lot of things sewed into themselves as well. It's one of those things, like a lot of the tangents I go on, I neglect to tell you. It actually does have something to do with what we're talking about, but it's going to take a circle for you to be like, oh yeah, okay, cool, perseverance. Oh yeah, okay, cool, preparation. Oh yeah, okay, cool. Like,
yeah, I know. I'm the same way too. Like, I think about like, there's so many instances where like I think of like an instance in like the military or a lesson I learned in the military, and is like it applies to like business or with work now or just everyday life. It's like all those different like experiences like loop back into each other, and whatever your day-to-day experience or event or whatever you're dealing with. So yeah, but yeah, man, no, this was awesome. It was great being able to talk hunting with you, and I mean, we talk about all sorts of different stuff outside of hunting and different political worlds and health, food, and everything like that.
yeah.
So, but yeah, let's wrap this up because I'm sure the game started by now. So
Actually, we have 8 minutes. We're running perfect here.
oh, okay, because yeah, me and your dad already talked about what we think the outcome of the game is going to be.
All right, that is a wrap on the conversation with Jonathan. Like I said, hopefully we're able to keep up with the conversation. I mean, we jumped from topic to topic to topic to topic to topic. So, I mean, it was great talking to him. We have those type of conversations all the time where we'll get on, go down a rabbit hole of different topics, whether it's hunting, whether it's nutrition, whether it's politics, which is awesome. Yeah, he is great to talk to. I'm kind of kicking myself for not having him on the show sooner. Basically, as you know, we just kind of flow from one topic to the other, which is awesome. So again, thank you for Jonathan for coming on to the episode or coming on to the show. Certainly he brought up a lot of great points and even had some good questions for me, even going through the episode. So with that, I mean, we finally got some good weather. I've been out ice fishing. Things were kind of slow, kind of getting into the groove again. We've caught a few small fish, but that was about it. We tried a new lake. Didn't do so well. Basically, the target fish that we were going after really wasn't in the lake that we thought was. So again, the big thing is going to be making it through these winter months, hitting the hard water. So hopefully I'm able to bring you some episodes about, going ice fishing and whatnot, because it's a great, pastime during the winter months. And then also really still thinking about hunting and, again, start to gear up and start that thought process for the upcoming season. So that's coming up as well. So with that, that's it for this episode. Again, as always, get out there, be safe, and have fun.